Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We are stuck as a nation. The great physicist Albert Einstein once said that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. After 45 years of rigged elections, we are stuck. We have failed to produce a political system that produces a competent and accountable government. Zimbabwe is a failed state because for the last 45 years and counting, we've been stuck with the same corrupt, incompetent, and tyrannical regime. It is interesting how some of those key players who have helped impose the Zanu PF dictatorship on the nation have from time and time again come up and said, oh, we did something wrong. This time we'll correct it. Only to repeat the same thing all over again. A few days ago, the nation had Comrade Blessed Geza and some of his war veteran friends come out strongly in condemnation of Mnangagwa and his regime. Here is the same gentleman expanding on the same theme.
Firstly, apologize to all of you for being one of the people who worked hard and invested a lot of personal resources to oust the former President Robert Mugabe, the late, from power and usher in Mnangagwa into office. I am deeply sorry, and with hindsight now, I regret this. We replaced Mugabe with a minister, a korokoza. It is us who gave you Mnangagwa. We put you in State House with the hope that you would reset our country on a path of recovery, respect the Constitution, and give our people hope. As soon as he had the taste of power, he escalated corruption, forgot the people, and remembered only his family. Mnangagwa is also surrendered.
I think some of us who are old enough would say we've heard this before. When the war veterans ousted Mugabe in 2017, they made the same allegations. Mugabe was corrupt, incompetent, and he should be removed. And if the truth be told, it is the same individuals who had imposed Robert Gabriel Mugabe on the nation the last 37 years. I've often played this video clip of the 2008 electoral coup. It is important to remember that year, 2008, was the nearest the country had ever got to holding free, fair, and credible elections. Zanu PF had rigged the elections since independence in 1980. And war veterans, and sometimes people make the mistake of thinking that the war veterans are only those who are unemployed. There are war veterans in the army, there are war veterans in the police, there are war veterans in the CIO, there are war veterans in the prison services, there are war veterans in government, and in many, many other sectors of Zimbabwe society. And they've all played their role in establishing the de facto one-party state, Zanu PF, that has ruled the country with an iron fist up to this day. But in 2008, after SADC had put a lot of pressure on Mugabe and his regime to implement reforms to allow people to have a meaningful say in the governance of the country came the closest it ever got to holding free, fair, and credible elections. And when Mnangagwa realized that Zanu PF was heading for a defeat, he stepped in and together with his Joint Operations Command, who are the top brass in the army, the police, the CIO, and the prison services, they came up with Operation Mafutera Papi. And the war veterans in those services and those who were unemployed played a key role in punishing the people of Zimbabwe for having dared to reject Zanu PF in the March vote. So the war veterans have played a key role all along in imposing the Zanu PF dictatorship. And so our friend here is talking as if 2017 was the only time that they did something wrong. They've been doing the wrong thing all along. He wants to give the nation the impression that they've learned the lesson. This will not happen again. They want to remove the monster and everything will be normal. The whole nation will live happily ever after. That is nonsense. Has he learned why the country has got into this mess? I don't think he has. Because if he had done so, you would know that the root cause of Zimbabwe's economic and political crisis is the failure to hold free, fair, and credible elections. The Zanu PF thugs have always believed that they had the divine right to rule the country, when in reality what we should have had in 1980 is free, fair, and credible elections. The right of every citizen to a meaningful say in the governance of the country should be supreme. What we are talking about, or what people like Blessed Geza is talking about here is that people like him know best and they should impose who is to rule the country. It is no secret that our friend Gezi here is garnering for VP Chiwenga to replace Mnangagwa. I ask him and his colleagues one question. If VP Chiwenga was to replace Mnangagwa, are you sure he will not be a monster too? He will not be corrupt. He will not be tyrannical. Let's look at his history. Is VP Chiwenga speaking clean? He was at the heart of the 2017 military coup. Here he is holding the constitution, pretending that he is a man of the constitution. He respects the constitution. He holds the constitution in high regard. And yet, to start with, the military coup that he staged, what chapter and verse in the Constitution allows a military coup? Nonsense. There was no such chapter and verse. And when he successfully managed to get Mugabe to step down, he became the VP, the vice president. We elected him. In the 2018 elections, he was campaigning to keep his position as vice president. And he made no secret that he will crush the opposition like lice. He said this in Kwekwe. Just days before that, Zanu PF had killed an opposition supporter in cold blood. To pretend that VP Chiwenga is a Democrat is laughable. Even if the whole nation mobilized and stopped Mnangagwa amending the constitution, and thus saving us the agony of him continuing beyond the 2028. Can Blessed Geza and friends assure the nation today that there will be free, fair, and credible elections in Zimbabwe? Indeed, one can start by asking them, when they helped to impose Mnangagwa, did the country hold free, fair, and credible elections then? So what has changed? You want us to believe that you now have the solution when you don't even understand what the problem is. The tragedy of Africa has always been that we have people who are insane to repeat the same thing over and over again. But because they are in power, in positions of power and authority, they're still able to impose themselves and their idiotic madness on the nation. I reiterate, President Mnangagwa is a tyrant, a murderous tyrant, who the people of Zimbabwe would have never voted for if elections had been free, fair, and credible. What Blessed Geza and others are telling us now is something that we already knew. And what they're offering us as a solution is no solution at all, because it's just repeating the same thing over and over again. This is no solution at all. And I think the people of Zimbabwe should make it very clear that we want a solution to end this cycle of rigged elections and bad governance. And that solution is that we should have the rule of law, restore everyone's right to a meaningful say in the governance of the country. No one should be above the law. No one has got a divine right to rule the country. That is at the basis of our problem. And if you don't understand that problem, then the truth is you're not offering any meaningful solution. I just want to read a few comments here. This is from Tina. Let's give them a chance. We said Chamisa has no backbone, so who is the suitable candidate? Surely we cannot deny everyone. Zimbabwe, at the present moment, I think we should not fall into the trap of we need a solution. We need an alternative to Mnangagwa. And some people would say Chamisa is the solution. And they would disregard the record, the track record of Chamisa being a liar and failing to implement even one democratic reform, even when he and his friends in the MDC had the chance to do so. The problem with Zimbabwe is our political system is rotten to the core. If you seriously expect a rotten political system to produce competent leaders, then you don't understand what's going on. This is why it is important to implement the democratic reforms, reform the entire political system, and allow meaningful democracy, debate, and democratic discourse to take place. Quality leaders will emerge out of that. If you expect quality leaders to be there now, then you don't understand. Because the present system does not allow quality to emerge. Zanu PF, as much as the Zanu PF members would say, oh, we should find an alternative. If we look at Blessed Geza, he's offering his alternative as VP Chiwenga. And yet VP Chiwenga, we know he's corrupt. He's just as incompetent. And he has been rigging elections himself. It's just part of the same problem. The problem is ending the dictatorship, not be swapping them one after another. I'll just read one more comment from Zorofu. Let them fight their factionalism on their own and not involve the masses because we are gullible. As much as I agree with you that we should let them fight their factionalism, the truth of the matter is these Zanu PF leaders are in power. And therefore, then they are in a position to force what you and me can talk about. I think what we need to say to them is make it abundantly clear what the solution should be. We should be telling them that what they're offering us is not a solution, but just a repeat of the same failed system. One faction of the war veterans are offering one candidate and the other another one. Both candidates are dictators. We want to dismantle the dictatorship and not to be swapping one dictator for another. That message, unfortunately, has not filtered through to even many of our ordinary Zimbabweans. Because if it had, we would have never made the mistake in 2017, for instance, of embracing those who staged the 2017 military coup. Because we would have seen straight away that this is not changing anything. We are only taking out one dictator and replacing him with another. And this is what makes it so laughable that some people even thought, no, let's give Mnangagwa a chance. And a chance to do what? Mnangagwa said, we all knew his history. Even our friend here who is now apologizing that we are the ones who imposed him on you. Didn't he know who Mnangagwa was? People like him were in Zanu PF Central Committee and knew the goings on in Zanu PF. We cannot keep repeating the same foolish mistake over and over again. We need to learn from the past. No nation can make progress when 45 years after independence, we're still failing to hold free, fair, credible elections. We're still failing to realize that what is the problem with the country is not so much the dictators, but the system itself. It's the dictatorship. Whoever you appoint, as long as we maintain the Zanu PF dictatorship as we know it, ye too will only survive in that position by using the same patronage system. He has got to cultivate, bribe people, buy their loyalty. And appointments in his government would not be on merit, but on who will be faithful to the individual. We need to implement the democratic reforms, fully implement them. And only then can we expect quality leaders to emerge. The focus should be on dismantling the Zanu PF dictatorship. And at the present moment, the best course of action is for the nation to demand that we have a government of national unity headed by technocrats who've got no allegiance to any political party, who will be given, I think, 2 years, 3 years at most, to implement all the democratic reforms and put the nation back on a democratic footing. The elections that follow those at GNU will produce quality leaders. My last word on this issue is at the present moment, Zimbabwe is nothing more than a sewage pond. If you fish in a sewage pond, do not expect to catch quality fish. It is a sewage pond. Change the system, drain it. Introduce clean water and restock the pond. And you will have quality leaders. Thank you very much, those of you who were able to join me, and I hope you'll be able to do it again in future. Have a good night.